Once upon a time, not so very far from here, was a once great land where the sky was never clear, where the sun, when it arose, never broke through the cloud, where mist and fog and darkness wove a melancholy shroud, from the mountains in the north to the valleys down below. All was rock and silence, and nothing green would grow. Buried lay great cities where it never stopped snowing, where for 100 years or more the north winds had been blowing. Gone were other cities, save for a spire, a dome, where water swallowed everything, stone by heavy stone. While elsewhere it had always snowed, here it always rained, and pale and cold the people were, what people there remained. Above this land of emptiness, of wet and wintry chill, a palace sat atop a rock, atop the highest hill. A handsome prince lay dreaming in his old four-poster bed, in his blankets and pyjamas, with his helmet on his head. He sometimes dreamed of icicles, of forests dark and cold, of silence or of emptiness, of tales that he'd been told. But this one night he didn't dream of north winds loud and raw. He dreamed instead of other things, and this is what he saw. When he woke, he ran through halls to find the king and queen, and tell them of the strangest things that in his dream he'd seen. They told him not to dwell upon the things inside his head, but he took his cloak and axe and ran to fetch his horse instead. He galloped from the palace down the steep road to the plain. His cloak swept out behind him like a spectre in the rain. Through wastes and fogs and villages, the prince on horseback flew, until he reached the very end of all the roads he knew. When darkness fell, he lay beside his horse for warmth and slept, dreaming of his dreams before, the secrets that they kept. When morning's dim light woke him, he sat up and looked around, and here's what he saw lying on the ashen barren ground. He gently picked the feather up and placed it by his breast. He softly woke his stallion from its deep and peaceful rest. They carried on in silence, slowly, both good friends and true, towards the far horizon where a deep dark forest grew. They were swallowed by the ancient trees, and soon they lost their way. They stumbled on in growing fear, quite hidden from the day. And nothing stirred around them as they moved through growing fright, until they spied a cottage in the forest's dwindling light. In the cottage lived a kindly witch with a stove and some repast. Her old and clouded eyes could see the future and the past. She fed the horse, she fed the prince, took the helmet off his head. And by the fire she spoke to him of things to fear and dread. She talked of many awful things, of wickedness she spoke, of how the land lay dying where once there had been hope, how his father's wealth and selfishness had turned the world to dark, to waste and cold and ice and stone and green leaf trees to bark. I dreamed of leaves, the prince cried out, of sun and crop and bloom, and woke to see just stones and mud, a dead branch in the gloom. Then I found this, I know not what, the feather in his hand. You must move on, the old crone said, before you'll understand. Don't turn to the right from here, a sea lies deep and empty. No fish grace its waters, though once they swam in plenty. And don't go straight ahead, my boy, if that is what you're asking. It's a land of screams and hungry ghosts with bony fingers grasping. Turn to the left and journey there as far as you can go. And when you reach the point to stop, I'm sure that you will know. You don't want grasping, screaming ghosts or waters without fish. You must turn left, then you will find the things for which you wish. And so he took the way she said, that witch so sweet and kind, and never for a moment missed the land he left behind. The prince and his horse rode long and hard on rough, unfriendly ground, but when they reached their journey's end, this is what they found. The prince built a house from wood, mud and stone, where he and his horse could live. They grew flowers and barley on the land, thinking only of what they could give. When he and his horse returned to their house, with labour both quite spent, he would tell his old friend of the things he had seen and what he thought they meant. The leaves were light, the sunshine life, the barley pure and kind. The flower was hope, the stones were time, the mud was there to bind. The dead branch once was reaching up through others to the sky. And the feather? Well, that's easy, he said. The feather's you and I.